My name is Aria, and my life has been marred by a repulsive affliction that has shattered everything I once held dear. Now, I don't say this to boast, but I've always been considered pretty. Like really undeniably pretty. I was aware of it even as a child, when my mother enrolled me in beauty pageants at the tender age of 5, and I seemed to clinch victory after victory. Yet, amidst the glow of my beauty, there loomed a shadow, Hannah. She was the queen bee of our school, possessing a beauty that was as captivating as it was intimidating. Frankly, I was terrified of her. Over the years, I observed her cruelty towards those she deemed unworthy, subjecting them to humiliation and ridicule. Instinctively, I knew I had to stay in her good graces. I joined her in mocking others, aiding in her schemes to torment the less popular kids in our class. As we advanced to middle school, our actions took a darker turn. We played malicious pranks, such as hiding classmates' clothes during gym class or spreading damaging rumors about innocent girls with crushes on popular boys. I vividly remember the time we targeted Kennedy, a girl whom I genuinely admired for her intelligence and kindness. But Hannah harbored a deep-seated animosity towards her, and I found myself complicit in a cruel prank orchestrated by Hannah. We convinced Kennedy that a popular boy had feelings for her, urging her to ask him to the school dance. When she did, the boy's derisive laughter echoed throughout the room as Kennedy fled, tears streaming down her face. Though I outwardly laughed along with the others, inside I was consumed by guilt and remorse. In the aftermath, I struggled to approach Kennedy, to offer even a shred of apology or solace. The weight of my shame was crushing, a stark reminder of the depths to which I had sunk in my quest to appease Hannah and maintain my precarious position within her orbit. For a couple of weeks, I was consumed by guilt and remorse. But as I entered 7th grade, a new wave of attention washed over me. Boys clamored for my number, and even some 8th graders would shoot me knowing glances in the hall. Yet, amidst the flurry of admirers, there was only one who held my interest, Samuel. Tall, handsome, and a skilled skateboarder, he embodied everything I desired in a guy. One Friday afternoon, he extended an invitation for me to join him and his friends at a party on Saturday. Maintaining a facade of nonchalance, I agreed casually, though inwardly, I was ecstatic. I wanted to shout from the rooftops, to set off fireworks spelling out my excitement. That night, I danced around my room, enveloped in a whirlwind of anticipation as I meticulously selected my outfit. Saturday dawned, promising what I believed would be the highlight of my life. Eager to embark on my first party adventure and share a kiss with Samuel, I awoke with a sense of exhilaration. However, my elation was short-lived as a foul stench assaulted my senses, permeating my room with the odor of rotting fish. Recoiling in disgust, I scoured every inch of my room in search of the source, but to no avail. Even as I sought assistance from my mother, the putrid scent seemed to cling to me, its pungency refusing to dissipate. Despite our combined efforts, the origin remained elusive. Convinced that a hapless animal had met an unfortunate end in the plumbing, I hurried to shower, desperate to rid myself of the nauseating aroma. Despite the unsettling incident earlier, I remained buoyant, eagerly anticipating the evening's party. However, upon emerging from the shower, the putrid scent persisted, shattering my hopes of a fragrant evening. Instead of the anticipated bouquet of roses and lilacs, my room reeked of decaying fish, and the foul odor clung to me with suffocating intensity, assaulting my senses. With a sinking feeling, I realized the source of the malodor wasn't my surroundings but myself. Horrified, I brought my nose to my armpit, confirming my worst fears. Every inch of me exuded the stench of a refuse heap. Frantically, I dashed back to the shower, dousing myself with every soap and scrub within reach, scrubbing until my skin was raw and tender. Emerging an hour later, I hoped to have banished the offensive odor, only to find myself enveloped in a nauseating concoction of pineapple, coconut, lilac, rose, lavender, and fish. Panic-stricken and desperate, I sought my mother's assistance, confessing that the source of the smell was none other than me. Her grimace mirrored my horror as she promised to schedule a doctor's appointment for Monday, but the thought of delaying the party brought tears to my eyes. Reluctantly accepting her offer, I clung to the hope of masking the odor with her strongest perfume, though the prospect of facing the party with this burden weighed heavily on my mind. Despite the unsettling incident earlier, I remained buoyant, eagerly anticipating the evening's party. However, upon emerging from the shower, the putrid scent persisted, shattering my hopes of a fragrant evening. Instead of the anticipated bouquet of roses and lilacs, my room reeked of decaying fish, and the foul odor clung to me with suffocating intensity, assaulting my senses. With a sinking feeling, I realized the source of the malodor wasn't my surroundings but myself. Horrified, I brought my nose to my armpit, confirming my worst fears. Every inch of me exuded the stench of a refuse heap. Frantically, I dashed back to the shower, dousing myself with every soap and scrub within reach, scrubbing until my skin was raw and tender. Emerging an hour later, I hoped to have banished the offensive odor, only to find myself enveloped in a nauseating concoction of pineapple, coconut, lilac, rose, lavender, and fish. Panic-stricken and desperate, I sought my mother's assistance, confessing that the source of the smell was none other than me. Her grimace mirrored my horror, as she promised to schedule a doctor's appointment for Monday, but the thought of delaying the party brought tears to my eyes. Reluctantly accepting her offer, I clung to the hope of masking the odor with her strongest perfume, though the prospect of facing the party with this burden weighed heavily on my mind. Despite my protests, Hannah dismissed my pleas with a roll of her eyes, while Samuel, standing nearby, recoiled in disgust, covering his nose and mouth. Tears welled in my eyes as Hannah shoved me back into the bathroom, ordering me to shower. The sound of laughter from outside the door pierced my heart, and I desperately attempted to escape, only to find myself trapped. Frustrated and humiliated, I eventually gave up and fled through the window, calling my mom to rescue me. The following day was spent in a haze of tears, my mother's attempts at consolation overshadowed by the pervasive stench emanating from my body. Determined to rid myself of the foul odor, I subjected myself to an excruciating 4-hour shower session. The subsequent visit to the doctor's office was met with disdainful glares from fellow patients, exacerbating my shame. However, the doctor's callous indifference cut deepest as he dismissed my distress with a laugh and flippant advice to take better care of myself. Utterly demoralized, I left the office feeling defeated and alone. In a desperate attempt to alleviate my condition, I rose before dawn the next morning, subjecting myself to 3 consecutive showers and a bath in icy water. Yet, upon arriving at school, it became painfully clear that my efforts had been in vain. The stench persisted, drawing horrified reactions from everyone I encountered. Shrouded in humiliation, I retreated into my hoodie, yearning to vanish from sight. In a small classroom, my teacher resorted to opening a window in a futile attempt to disperse the offensive odor that clung to me. Eventually, she instructed me to retreat to the hallway, admonishing me about the importance of personal hygiene and its impact on the class's focus. Despite my efforts to explain the source of the smell, my pleas fell on deaf ears. Frustrated and dejected, I left school and bore witness to a barrage of cruel memes and jokes about my perceived lack of hygiene, some even delving into absurd speculations about my lineage. Feeling ostracized and defeated, I resolved to abandon school altogether, refusing my mother's pleas to return. In a bid to salvage my education, my mother enrolled me in a local private school offering a hybrid program, with some classes in person and the remainder online. Fearing rejection from my new peers, I braced myself for disdain upon my arrival. To my surprise, Kennedy, the girl whom Hannah and I had targeted, greeted me with a smile, offering a glimmer of acceptance amidst the sea of revulsion. During our lunch break, I seized the opportunity to apologize to Kennedy for my past actions. To my astonishment, she brushed off my apology, attributing our previous conflicts to bygone days. Perplexed by her lack of reaction to my odor, she revealed that her allergies were acting up, explaining her tolerance. Grateful for her understanding, I vowed to cherish her friendship, recognizing her as a beacon of compassion in my isolated world. As we conversed further, I learned of her allergy to tree pollen, deepening my appreciation for her resilience and kindness. I'm deeply ashamed of my actions, but in the mornings, I would sneak into the woods, vigorously shaking trees to collect pollen. Secretly, I'd smear it on Kennedy's belongings, her desk, purse, even her jacket, causing her eyes to swell and redden for weeks. Despite the harm I inflicted, Our bond deepened, and I wrestled with guilt over making her ill. As our friendship blossomed, I grappled with the realization of my betrayal. Yet, faced with the prospect of losing my sole confidant, I persisted in my deceit, coating her possessions with pollen whenever the opportunity arose. Though Kennedy's parents contemplated relocating her to a less allergenic environment, I couldn't bear the thought of losing her. When she extended an invitation to her home, my fear of humiliation outweighed my desire to accept. I dodged her invitations, fabricating excuses to avoid facing her parents' scrutiny. However, my evasion tactics crumbled on my birthday when Kennedy surprised me with a trip to a water park, orchestrated with my mother's cooperation. Panicked, I feigned illness, rejecting her kind gesture and fleeing into the woods, desperate to escape the shame and deception. As I stumbled into the woods, overwhelmed by tears and shame, I collapsed, unable to bear the weight of my distress any longer. Lost in my anguish, I didn't notice Kennedy and her father approaching until they were upon me. In a desperate outpouring, I confessed everything: my perpetual fish-like odor, its impact on Kennedy's health, and my fear of losing her friendship. To my astonishment, her father, a doctor, reassured me that I suffered from a rare condition called trimethylaminuria, dispelling my sense of shame and normalizing my experience. Kennedy, demonstrating true friendship, embraced me without judgment, reaffirming her unwavering support. Relieved of the burden of secrecy, I felt a newfound sense of liberation. Kennedy's father, extending compassion and understanding, helped me to my feet, and we proceeded to the water park, where my birthday celebration continued unabated, devoid of any mention of my condition. Through this ordeal, I gleaned invaluable lessons about friendship and empathy. I realized that those who truly care for me will accept me unconditionally, regardless of my condition. Now, as I navigate life above a fish market, enveloped in the familiar scent, I find solace in the acceptance and camaraderie of those who cherish me for who I am.